Okay, I've been watching my phone to see as soon as it hit 5. Countdown. Welcome to City Council. Tonight we have Tim Martin with the Interfaith Council and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to give us our invocation.
I would add that on September 10th, there will be a service day, National Day of Service, that the city is working with the Interfaith Council and several groups within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to plan some events. And all those events will be on justserve.org. And there will be a plethora, because last year, we may recall, on the National Day of Service, we cleaned up all the roads in preparation for the Ironman. This year, it'll be multi-projects at schools and trying to involve even some of the seniors. So you'll be hopefully hearing more about that as it gets closer for September 10th, the National Day of Service. So
thank you.
Please join me in prayer. Our Father in heaven, we're thankful this day that we can be in this meeting of the St. George City Council. We're thankful for those who serve us, who give their time, who worry and think about what are the right things to do. We pray a blessing upon those who will be speaking this day in the meeting, that they might be able to say those things that they've needed to say. We pray for inspiration for our city council, that they might know those things that will be in the best benefit of all the people who live in this wonderful part of the land. We pray for rain, Father, that we might receive the moisture that we need. We're thankful for those who might participate in this meeting and those who might consider and think about the decisions that need to be made. May thy Spirit be with them. And these things we ask in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tim. I've asked Danielle to lead us in the pledge.
Everyone, please rise. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We just have one pre-agenda item tonight, and that is Kyle Case with the Senior Games. Kyle, if you want to come up and make your presentation.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here this evening and to share a few things with you. I want to do three things. Number one is I want to just give a very brief recap of the 2021 games, because we haven't had a chance to do that yet with scheduling and just a variety of different things that got in the way of allowing us to do that. I want to give you a very brief preview of some of the things that we're working on this year for the 2022 Huntsman World Senior Games, and then just express our sincere appreciation for all that the city does to help make this event great and even make it possible. So just to start us off, And then I want to answer any questions that you may have as well. So don't hesitate to just speak up if you have questions. I do want to share just like I said, a very few things about last year. Last year was 2021. We were coming off of 2020 where we unfortunately had to cancel the event. Many of us will remember how many things were canceled in 2020. So 2021, we were coming off of that event, and when registration opened up, we were on record pace very early on, very quickly, because people had missed coming to our community, being a part of St. George and a part of the games. And then you'll remember that in 2021, about September or so, we had another wave of COVID-19 that came through. And consequently, the border between Canada and the United States on our side was not opened. And we fully expected it to be open. But on the 20th of August, Homeland Security tweeted that the border was going to stay closed. And because of that, we immediately lost about 1,000 Canadian athletes that had planned and had registered to come and compete in the Huntsman World Senior Games. And then there was a ripple effect from that. Many of the teams are made up of Americans and Canadians, and then the Americans couldn't gather enough together to finish up their teams. And so we definitely felt an effect of that. And then there were others that were just concerned about COVID-19 at that time. And we issued over 1,800 refunds. But even with that being the case, last year we still welcomed over 10,000 athletes to come to our area, to St. George, and compete in the Huntsman World Senior Games. And so we felt like that was pretty successful, all things considered, and very exciting for us to be able to do that. Even with the difficulties of international travel, we still hosted 17 different nations, which is less than normal, but given the circumstances, we felt pretty good about that, including, for the first time ever, athletes from Guam, as well as from the Republic of Korea, which is South Korea to most of us. So we felt really good about that the games are still growing internationally, and that we were able to welcome new countries along the way as well. Economic impacts continue to be significant. We brought about $20 million into the community during the 2 weeks of the World Senior Games. Again, something that we felt very excited about and happy to be a part of that. A couple of other things that we did. We added 3 new sports, so we did continue to grow the games. Those sports were rugby. We added senior rugby. A lot of people raise their eyebrows at that, but it is true. Senior athletes do play rugby. We had 10 teams that registered and 176 athletes that competed. We also added bocce for the first time in the games, and so we were excited about that with 89 participants. And then we also added indoor rowing, also with 89 participants. It's worth noting that this gentleman here on the screen, his name is Dean Smith. At age 95, he set a world record for the 2,000 meter race for indoor rowing, and we were excited, to say the least, to have a world record broken during our event in that classification. So very exciting there. I'm not going to get into all the numbers and all the details. There's not time for that, but I do want to let you know that registration is going very well for us right now. We just passed 8,000 registered athletes, which is just where we want to be with a couple of months left to finish out. We anticipate that we will be at probably about 11,000 athletes if everything continues to go as it has gone. So like I said, I'm not going to spend time going over all these numbers, but the registrations are coming in, the sports are looking really good, and we're excited about the prospects for a great event. We are adding a couple of new featured events this year that we're also very excited about. We're adding, this is a non-competitive event, we're calling it the Bike Tour. We've offered a walking tour for years and years here at the games, and they've given athletes and their guests an opportunity to get out and get to know the community in a variety of different ways. We're going to expand that circle just a little bit with bikes, and we're going to allow e-bikes to participate in the bike tour as well, so it'll make it very accessible to people. We have 4 different legs that people can participate in, and when they finish, if they finish all 4 of those, then they get a finishing medal and a sticker for every leg that they finish, and we're looking forward to that as well. At the opening ceremonies, we're going to offer a pre-ceremonies tailgate, and once again, just an opportunity to say thank you to the community. We invite and want the community to come out and be a part of that, and then to celebrate with us at the opening ceremonies, which is on Tuesday, October 4th this year. And then brand new this year, we're going to have what we're calling the Friendship Festival. And that's going to take place at the Dixie Center. And it's just going to be, again, an opportunity for the community and the athletes to come together, celebrate the founding principles of peace, health, and friendship that the games are all about. So just a few new exciting things that we have on the docket as well. And then the last thing that I want to share with you is our sincere appreciation. We are keenly aware that we could not do what we do at the Huntsman World Senior Games without the city's help. In fact, this year is our 35th anniversary year, 35 years of the Huntsman World Senior Games, and the city has been there as a partner, a contributing member, a sponsor from the very beginning, and we are so glad for that. We know that again, that we couldn't do what we do without your help, and appreciate all of that. And so as a small token of appreciation, I have a gift that I would like to present to the mayor, if I may approach the bench. So we hope that you'll display this with pride of our
That's beautiful, Kyle, and heavy. Thank you so very much.
We appreciate all that you do. Does anyone have any questions that I can answer for you about the games?
Well, first, I'm really excited for them because once the games come to town, we're no longer in triple-digit heat. So I always look forward to that, to October.
It's worth celebrating, right?
That's right. And I'm old enough to participate, and that's kind of disheartening. But, you know, I was thinking I could do that bike tour. Natalie could. Yeah, I'm throwing you into the pot, and Tawny, and I think Jimmy even, but
There's a few of us that could, right?
There's a few of us that could.
My wife, I'm sure she's happy that I'm announcing this, but she's eligible this year. She turned 50 in June, and she's looking for a sport to compete in and participate in as well. So I know that it's like this milestone, that it's bittersweet, but let the games be the sweet part of that, right?
They're inspiring. If you go watch any of them, it's truly inspiring. So.
Absolutely. Any questions at all?
Greg, did you have
Hey,
something?
I was going to tell you, Kyle, I looked up your bike tour, which looks really fun. And right before, like 2 weeks before your games, or maybe 3 weeks before your games, we're having the grand opening for the tunnel that goes underneath Bluff Street. So you can add that into your tour. Because
Yeah,
it looks like you go down
absolutely, for
Skyline,
next
down
year.
Main. You can hit that. So I'll have it
Awesome.
in just in time for you.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. We'll definitely take advantage of it.
So I just got to say this publicly. It needs to be said that, the Huntsman World Senior Games has been just a staple of St. George. It's one of the things that puts us on the map, and it's incredible. It's done incredibly well. The reason why it's that good is because of leadership. Kyle, you are incredible, and we thank you for making it's such an amazing, world-class event. You and your staff, you're just a major asset to the city of St. George. So thank you for all you do. You deserve one of these trophies from us.
Well, thank you. It definitely is a team sport. Putting on the event is a team effort, and I will express that to the team. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Kyle. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Adam, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Thank you. Just one that I'll note. Item 12 has been removed at the request of the applicant. And then when we get to item 13, I would suggest that we do item 17 with that one, or just right after. That's the item that's on the addendum. It was included in the packet, and then when the actual agenda was put together, that was left off. So item 17 and item 13, those are together. It probably would make sense to consider those one right after the other. But other than that...
Are we still doing item number 2?
Yes, for item number 2, we have noticed a public hearing, and we may have people in attendance who'd like to speak on that. We've gotten some public comment in via email. I think what we'd recommend to the council is hold a public hearing and then continue that And based on the public hearing, if it needs to be remanded back to the Planning Commission, I think we'd want to take that public comment first and then see what would be appropriate.
All right.
So with that, on the consent calendar, we have a number of items here. I would just point out two things so that the council is aware of this. First, on item G, the rodeo sponsorship, there were some questions regarding the insurance requirement. As you're aware, we just barely talked about this in a work session. So the position that we've asked of the applicant, that we've taken, I guess, is to just keep what we had in place for last year. We've looked at that requirement. The applicant seemed to believe that that was something that they could work with. So we would just hold that at the same level as last year. Speaking with legal, we feel like there's adequate coverage there for that event and what's being requested. And then items C and D, those items will be covered in the existing budget, but I would just make a note that there would be a corresponding budget amendment with a little more specificity for this that will come the next round that we do some budget amendments. So it is currently covered, but in the next round of budget amendments for items C and D, we'll bring forward a more specific amendment to clarify how all that's going to work. Otherwise, if the council would like to discuss any of these individually, we're happy to do that, but they've all been found to comply with our requirements, and staff recommends approval.
I had a question on item C. So are we liable for the water that was caused there, or will there be like an insurance payout that'll pay us back or something like that from the individual that left the tap on?
I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, okay. Just a question.
I don't know whether the claim was filed with the city or their own insurance, but I can look into it and get back to you.
Okay. And then I had a question on item F. And this one I hope is not too far out of scope. I'm for this. Is that chip seal? Is that for the road chip seal? And how often do we do those? Like, that's a Cameron question. I've had a lot of questions on that recently from people. How often do we chip seal? What do we do? Maybe if you just give a quick.
So chip seal, Cameron Cutler. Chip seal in the industry lasts about 7 years, but it really depends on how busy the roadway is. We do a chip seal project almost every year, but we can usually get a chip seal to last longer than that. Again, if it's a really busy road, then we do it more often. But usually on the busy road, if we can get new pavement down, we don't usually go to chip seal. We usually do a crack seal, maybe a micro surface, maybe a slurry seal. We try not to, just because of the smoothness, we don't necessarily just go add chip seal to the new roadways. We may add I don't want to say all the products out there, but some seal coats and some other things to try and get the existing pavement to last longer. So chip seal, usually about 7 years, but it really depends on how busy the road is.
Okay. So we typically try to do something other than chip seal, and then that's when it's finally worn out, you got to chip seal it, that's when you go that route.
Or if we've had historically chip seal on it, then we put chip seal back on.
Oh, okay. I appreciate it. I've got a lot of questions. Thank you.
Any other questions on the consent calendar? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mayor. Before I make the motion to that chip seal, Cameron should know how much the cycling community, he does know this, but I'll just point out this is maybe something that no one else in the world would be interested in, but that 1/4-inch basalt that they use made a huge difference for the vibration on the roads, and it does hold up better. And then, like it says on the calendar, it's darker, so it actually shows up, the lines show up better. But the cycling community was very happy when we switched over to 1/4-inch basalt chip. So anyway, I will make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, seconded by Greg. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 2 is a request for a public hearing consideration of a subdivision amendment for Twin Lakes Resort Phase 1 amended and extended by adding lots 432 through 439, common area, and realigning Twin Lakes Drive to match the existing roadway improvements. So I'm going to have to apologize. I didn't know that this was still on the agenda, so I didn't present anything. So really, it's just there's 5 lots on the westerly side that are being added and the 2 on the easterly side. And there was a discussion about an easement that didn't show up that just came to light today or yesterday. And so they're going to need to amend that. and fix 2 of the lots, or at least 1 of the lots.
Okay, any questions for Wes? If not, this is a public hearing, so anybody who has come to comment on the Twin Lakes Resort Phase 1 amended and extended, just come to the microphone, and if you'll state your name for the record.
My name is Randall Breeze,
Can you spell that name for our recorder?
Brees, like the football player.
Okay.
But I'm opposed to this. I bought my house 14 years ago, and it's a scenic out from the front of my house, my front window. I can see all of the mountains and stuff. Yeah. And if they build 2 houses in front of my house, it'll block my view, and I'm just against it. So, and I lived here 14 years, and my neighbors lived there for 30 years, and I mean, if nothing else, it's grandfathered in. I mean, but, and I don't know. It's the first time I ever done this, so.
Well, we appreciate your comments.
And we actually own the property. I don't know. Aaron back here will explain it better, but he's a talker. I'm not. So, but that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Nervous getting up here in front of you guys, but my name is Aaron Webb, for the record. I bought my house 4 years ago. My neighbor was kind of the guy that, I mean, he dropped a big folder in my lap, and so trying to go through this has just been crazy. And I want to thank the guys that are building there, because obviously it's increased the value of our home, and yeah, we like it. But I've went through a few things, and kind of what he was saying is, when he bought the house, there was a golf course right there. I don't know if you have a picture of the map. Can we?
We don't, because we thought this was going to be pulled off the agenda tonight,
Yeah.
but we're having the public hearing, so
Well,
we have it in our packets.
yeah, I'm the vice president of the HOA. The builders are the president and the whatever, and I get information from everybody. So I don't know if you guys want to see this and pass it around.
We have it.
You have
Yeah,
this
we
in
have
front of you? Okay, so as far as the 5 lots over here, it was quitclaim deeded to us. We paid for it, and I think it was in 1993. What's that?
He said 98.
No, well, I have a paper that shows 1993. And then what happened was the guy went bankrupt in '08, and the bank encumbered that back. I don't know if there's some sort of a statute of limitations. I don't know. I'm not really worried about this, other than if this is amended into phase 1, these 5 lots, then that means our HOA ends up having to pay for that road, or the owners end up having to, it encumbers this road that we end up having to pay for also, so it raises up our HOA. As far as he was saying on this over lot 432 and 433, when he bought his house, there was a golf course there. He knew no one could build there because it's common ground, and that's kind of the big deal is when you transfer common ground into a lot, it kind of has to be everybody in the HOA has to say that, because we all have a common interest in the common ground. And I have old maps from back then. I've tried to go through and get everything the best I could, but I have old maps, even that he drew up, that does these maps, that shows these being common areas of our HOA. Yeah, I have multiple maps. But what I found out, because I did the work and I told them, I said, I don't know if there's a statute of limitation on the 5 lots that are out there that they want to bring in. But as far as the other 2, I wish I had like slides and stuff so I could explain it more. So this is where our mailboxes are on 434. That's where our mailboxes are. And the guy, I'm trying to speak for everybody, but the guy who bought the house next to him, what was told to him is there's supposed to be a 25-foot setback on street corners. So he thought no one could build there. And when he found out, he offered to buy it. And that's kind of where we're running into is if our common ground, if we're going to just turn them into lots and give them to somebody, you know, the attorney that did all this, I talked to him. One of them's a judge now, Wilcox. The other one, I can't remember his name. But because we've sat there and we've paid to maintain these common grounds and stuff like that, we all have an invested interest in it. But what else? I'm nervous. I'm trying to get it all out. But so with this boundary line, I have a couple papers where it's different. The cities, yeah, and we might want to pass this around, but the cities, so we have perfect squares that are perfectly measured, and then the city has this big, long encumber for this lot, which isn't. It should be a square, and then we own all this where the road, our HOA, it would be common ground. It's the one right in front of his house. So it's kind of messy. And I mean, we're grateful. I'm sure everybody is, because it used to be a beautiful golf course if you grew up here. And now we're glad that they're building there, but we just want to make sure that either, you know, that somebody may, if we're going to turn them into lots, that our HOA might be compensated for that. You know what I mean?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to work right with Wes Jenkins there, and then our attorney, Jamie Bracken, is over land use. She's waving her hand in the back.
Yeah.
And they can work with you and kind of get through all of that. And then when we do vote on this again, we'll have more information. And
But that was the big thing, was it ended up given to us. The bank took it back, which I'm not worried about those 5 lots. You know, I'm not trying to do anything. But as far as common ground, we have maps drawn, professional maps from him that shows that it was a playground area there, and there was a playground area there. So I'll work with them and go over that.
yeah, I'll
stuff.
have Wes give you his name and his number, and Jamie can do the same.
Yeah. And when I did talk to the city, though, they said, you know, this is probably something you guys should have a meeting about in your HOA and kind of work it out there. And that's what I thought.
But your main concern is it is common area, and now it's going to be turned into lots, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Who said that?
Right here. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and yeah.
A voice from above.
It's kind of like, well, why don't I get a lot? You know what I mean? Not that I want one. I don't care. Eventually that'll be another rental for me. I own 2 up there. But, yeah, so as far as the common ground goes, I think it has to be a unanimous vote. It's not the 66% to change common ground to that. Yeah. So I'll work with them.
Wes, have you discussed
Thank
these
you.
issues with the applicant? I was looking for Bob. I don't see him here unless he's maybe right outside. But have you spoken with Bob about this?
No, not about these ownership issues. This is the first I've ever heard of them. So we'll
Sounds like
have
there's
to
some
get
work to do.
together with Bob and them and kind of talk this thing through.
That's what I thought we should do.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? If not, I'll close the public hearing, and then, Adam, do we need, no. Oh, we're going to continue the public hearing until we meet on this when it's back on the agenda.
Uncertain, when it's ready.
To an uncertain date. All right, item number 3. Oh, we do need a motion to continue.
I'll make a motion to continue item 2, the public hearing for the subdivision amendment for Twin Lakes Resort Phase 1, to an unspecified date.
Second that motion.
Motion by Natalie, second by Greg. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Lori.
Hi,
Hi.
it's hot out.
Yes, it is.
Load's about 205 megawatts right now, so we're nearing our peak. It's kind of exciting. Anyway,
Exciting.
It's exciting for you.
As long as you can guarantee we keep the power
I've
on.
only had orange so far. We haven't had a
Anyway.
red.
Yeah.
what?
We haven't had a red yet.
Not a red alert
No,
yet, just
uh-uh.
orange.
Well, because that really goes on the system, and the system is still stable. Loads are high, we're able to handle that, we're built to handle that. It's the outside transmission lines that are doing good right now, so we don't have a problem. Okay?
You're awesome.
Okay, so I'm here for you guys to consider approval of a resolution, and this is that steel solar project. I've told you all about that. That's going to replace that coal contract that's going away in '23. This starts in '24. It's about half of the cost of the coal contract that it's replacing. Any questions?
Questions for Lori?
I only had one question when I was reading it. I was curious about, like, if somebody defaults, it sounds like then we get right of first refusal. Is that how that works? If someone, like, defaults on their entitlement shares?
Yep.
Okay.
In fact, I was on a call today about the Red Mesa. There's a couple of entities up north that might be pulling out of that, and I've requested 5 more megawatts of their shares.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the way it does. It goes back to the group. We're actually the biggest participant, so we get first choice for extra megawatts.
That's what I was noticing, so it seems like a really good deal for us.
When we get these two, we'll have about 50 megawatts of solar coming on in the next 2 years.
Thanks, Laurie.
Other questions for Lori? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion. Whatever Lori wants, Lori gets.
Right. Except, second.
So, no.
She'll take you up on that.
Except for to retire.
That's true. So I make a motion that we approve the resolution to enter into a Steel 1B solar project power purchase agreement.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Danielle. This is a resolution calling for a roll call vote. All in favor, starting with Danielle.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye. Captain Minnick.
Good afternoon again. So this is for the consideration of approval of a resolution to repurpose some unclaimed property in our evidence room. A little bit of a background. This was a fraud investigation where some property was sent to a local business that had no relation to the consignee. We came, collected it. We've since been in contact with that person. We've been in contact with a cell phone company. Nobody wants the items back. So generally what we would do is just dispose of them here. But we do have a need in the department for our Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force that helps with internet crimes, particularly when it comes to solicitation of kids, that kind of stuff. And so we were asking to repurpose these for the purpose of using them in ICAC investigations. And the reason for that is there's so much technology out there that if I use my department cell phone, it can be tracked back to the city. We will use these ones on prepaid minutes. It allows them a little bit more anonymity to do their investigations.
I can't think of a better use for the phones.
They're like 6 years old too. I don't think anybody wants that.
Yeah, they're not an iPhone, 13.
Hey, that's what I have.
I mean, that's the best technology out there. Yeah.
As a Samsung user, what I heard you say is no one wants an iPhone.
Apparently, yeah. Nobody wants an iPhone. Right. I think they're going to go out of business because of this, probably.
If you have no questions for Jordan, I'm ready for a motion, or Captain Minnick.
Motion to
sorry.
approve the resolution to repurpose unclaimed property items to the St. George Police Department.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Natalie. All in favor, starting with Michelle.
Michelle Tanner, aye. Natalie Larson, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Motion carries. Jay.
I'm sure you've all read the plan. It's over 1,000 pages.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
There's a link. Okay. So every 5 years, the 5-County Association of Governments updates their 5-county multi-jurisdictional natural hazard mitigation plan. So there's 43 entities that are part of that. The plan addresses various hazards: landslide, problem soils, earthquake, flooding, wildfire, drought, and severe weather. This will be the 4th update, so the plan's been around for a long time. The plan in its draft form has been approved by the Utah Division of Emergency Management and the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So once the plan's adopted by everybody, the entities that adopted are eligible for FEMA funding for pre-disaster mitigation funding and other projects. So whenever we request a federal grant of any kind, they make sure that we have this plan in place. As far as St. George is concerned, probably in a nutshell, as long as we're following our processes, our ordinances, our general plan, they address natural hazards. So we comply. And then the Flood Control Authority has a lot of projects that are planned that mitigate a lot of the drainage concerns that we have along the rivers. And so that also is part of the strategy to mitigate a lot of the hazards as far as flooding goes. The water conservation ordinance that's going to be adopted also mitigates the drought hazard that's addressed in this ordinance. So, questions?
I think it's interesting that we address both flooding and drought in the same sentence. And if we've lived here very long, we know about the flooding that can happen and that it really is a multi-county issue that we keep those washes clear and all of that. So there's a lot of work that goes on behind this that none of us really see, but we appreciate when the flooding doesn't happen. And the same thing with drought relief. I know the council and the county and the cities around us have all worked hard on that together to make that. So I appreciate your work on that, Jay.
Thank you. Yeah, the Flood Control Authority has received a lot of grant money, and that grant money is contingent upon this plan being adopted, so it's important.
And I guess just to clarify too, you mentioned, as long as we're following all of our own ordinances and laws, are there any other strings attached that you're aware of that we should know about?
I'm not aware of anything.
Okay.
Jay, I was curious, are sinkholes considered natural disasters?
Yeah. The only sinkholes that we have dealt with really are in the areas where we've put bank protection, and there have been a few areas that have settled back as the soil settles into the rock.
Mm-hmm. So then they're not in that case. We haven't had any that would just be considered natural. Interesting. Okay.
Or when we have a pipe that surcharges in a parking lot next to a hotel.
That would never happen.
Yeah.
Other questions for Jay? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution adopting the 5-county multi-jurisdictional natural hazard mitigation plan for 2022 to 2027.
Second.
Motion by Natalie, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, starting with Michelle.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, this is Carol Davidson. Moving on to item number 6, it's to consider approval of an ordinance amending the park at Temple View Plan Development.
Carol, will you try to, it's really hard. I don't know if that mic's just not turned up. It's really quiet tonight.
Yes, yeah, okay, I couldn't hear myself either. Okay, I can now though, but I just have to hold this up. Okay, so we're considering an ordinance to amend the Park at Temple View Plan Development Residential Zone to change the zoning from Plan Development Residential to Plan Development Commercial on approximately 1 acre, and to change the zone from Agricultural A1 to Plan Development Residential on approximately 7.98 acres, all for the purpose of altering the boundaries and to approve a new design and layout for this residential plan development totaling approximately 46.79 acres to be known as Viviano at Washington Fields. Okay, so to begin, general location, this obviously was approved before, but we've got some things going on that I'd like to discuss. 3000 East, and this is actually Merrill Road, the extension of Mall Drive. The land use plan, we've got mostly medium density residential, a little strip there of low density. And then the zoning is plan development residential, and as I mentioned, a little strip of A1 in there. And that's not the steak sauce. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that out loud. I was thinking beef, and then A1 popped in. So yeah, I was thinking of you, Jimmy. So, okay. So this is kind of showing you what we're doing today. So this little piece here in blue, that is currently PDR, and the proposal is to change this to PDC. And then the part in yellow is the A1, and the applicants are proposing to change that to the PDR. All of this came about when this was passed. There was a condition that the applicant work with staff on the location for a possible future signal. And it was determined that it would make more sense for the signal to come into the commercial development as opposed to the residential development. So that's kind of why we're here tonight. This is what was approved before, this area, this image on the left. On the right is what they're proposing. It has been extended. The acreage has increased. The unit count has increased. However, the dwelling units per acre has decreased on this, going from 6.73 to 6.24. Mostly the house plans are about the same. There's one difference I'll explain. So this is the, I did turn it here on the side, so 3,000 is down on the bottom. But these are the single family homes. The yellow is the duplexes. This area in blue, these are Paseo homes, a little bit different. They'll be the ones that open up. The front doors will be on a green space, and then the rear will have the garages. And then the final area in purple, that's the townhomes. For parking, a difference between the original approval is every unit will have a 2-car garage plus a 2-car driveway extending out. So there will be plenty of parking. They meet the parking regulations. There will also be additional 34 spaces at the clubhouse and the dog park. These are the amenities they're proposing. They're required to have 4. They are going above and beyond on that with their amenities. They're having kind of the same amenities. They're adding actually a few more on that. For landscape areas, this is what they're proposing. The green area is supposed to be turf, and the tan area is xeriscape. There is a condition about all this turf area that I'll talk about here in a couple slides. Access plan, they do have full access on Merrill Road and 3000 East. The orange is all public streets. The purple is interior private trails for this development, and then they will have public trails around the outsides in this maroon color. This is the fencing that we'll be putting up around the development and around the amenities. 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. Most of the amenities will be done in phase 1. They are with the first project, if you recall, they did ask for a sign variation to allow 2 entryway signs on the 2 public roads or arterials they'll be accessing, and then also to increase the height by 5 feet. They will be the same style, just won't have the same name because they are proposing to change their name. And just so you know, I have the Planning Commission didn't like the Washington Fields. They felt it was a little confusing because this is in St. George, not Washington. So they are proposing to change it to Viviano at Red Cliffs, which won't get anyone confused. This is their clubhouse. It's exactly what they proposed last time. All of the houses, all the single-family homes will be exactly what they proposed last time. The twin homes will be the same, except they will be all 2-car garages. The townhomes, the same thing. They'll be the same, but with 2-car garages and driveways. These are the Paseo homes with the front door on the green space and then the rear opening up to the public right-of-way. And here's the conditions. The Planning Commission did recommend approval. There was a public hearing, and we did not have any comments in the public hearing. These are the conditions they added. One, a variation is granted for the height and the location of the signs, and then that no fencing be allowed to be placed in between units that are closer than 10 feet apart, and that the name of the development be changed. And then the fourth one, oops, not showing up on here, but that one was the Planning Commission wanted them to follow the new landscape plans that will be hopefully adopted here soon for the water restrictions. So a lot of that turf might be changing up to either AstroTurf or Xeriscape. So that were the, if this is approved, that were the four. That was the four recommendations. So I'm here for any questions. We also have applicant representation.
I'm wondering, the roadway on the east side of that project, is it going to be developed along with the property on 3000 East and Merrill Road?
Yeah, let's get
so they
back.
can have access, not just to have to come onto 3000 East.
Let me get to the main.
They're going a different direction.
So which one are you talking about?
The one on the west side down, the red line at the top of the street.
East.
The east side? Yeah. Yeah, there is, see, right at this point, it will go south, but it won't continue up here because this area that's Washington City, or
Can they not work with Washington City to get that roadway in? I think it's important with that many units that they have access.
Yeah, they didn't, their plans for their development don't include any accesses to come over this way.
So they don't have to participate in the roadway that adjoins their units? I mean, you know what I mean? That.
Yeah, the way I understand it is there wasn't any, they didn't allow for that and they didn't want that. That's the way I understand it. Is that? The roadway here on the east side?
Yes.
They, instead of doing, like you said, this goes down to 1140, so there's that church that's right down there. This will provide access down to 1140. But as far as this goes, they requested to run a trail up here. There's a high-pressure gas line right through there, and so it had to stay open. So they requested, instead of putting a road, that they put a trail up there. Because I don't believe the subdivisions here in Washington City accounted for any type of roadway there. And so it was deleted in Washington, and so that's why they chose to do that and just to put a trail up there.
And then there is an access, is that correct, for pedestrians? Is that what I see about?
Right here, or?
Coming back, right about there.
Oh, right
That's
here?
the pedestrian access?
Yeah, so this is their interior trail system would tie to that city trail that comes up through there.
So is that gated or is that open?
I don't know, you have to ask the applicant. I'm not totally sure on that.
Yeah, what the applicant wanted to do was have a gate there that their residents could get through, but then it keeps out, somebody from just a general public couldn't come into the development that
I know
way.
it's a big discussion in planning commission, so I'm going back to that. But it's not a gated community per se, like there's no gate as far as driving in and out?
No, there isn't a gate. The only reason why they wanted to put that in there is this will be a rental community owned by one entity, and they do tend to get sued quite often, and they just were trying to prevent that as much as they could. All of the roads definitely are accessible and open, and anyone can go in there if they wanted to.
Carol, I was curious about that also. So I noticed the interior private trails. The images that you showed look like sidewalks, but are they actually putting trails in there and then the trails connect, or is it just sidewalks through there?
Well, it must have been this one. Oh, here we go. I was assuming those were sidewalks, but I can yeah, they are sidewalks.
They're sidewalks, okay. And then, let's see, are they putting in the electric car charging stations and the bike parking? I noticed that was in the requirement, but it wasn't there yet. Are they planning on doing that?
They will be required to put that in.
And then the other thing I was curious about is, so those are all public streets, but did you say that they're going to have
lighted bollards, and how does that work if it's in a public easement, but there's a private entity it said they were going to maintain the lights in the bollards down the middle of the road?
I'm not sure. Was that in their description? I am not sure what they're talking about in that one. We can have them come up in it if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
They're playing rock, paper, scissors.
David Hicks, Hicks. So the bollards should be just along the trail or the sidewalk system. The street lights will be the St. George standard for all the lighting that's required. But the bollards would be along those pathways.
Oh, okay.
And again, we would maintain all of the landscaping, all of the bollards, all of the trails. So just the streets are public.
Maybe I read that wrong. It sounded like there was a center area that had bollards down through it, and
again, no streets there, so those bollards would be ours to maintain and to install and to take care of.
sounds good.
So, hey, on the illustrations, the colors seem to be orange and green and tan. Is that intentional, or is that just?
No, that's what the architect put in. He might have some color scheme in mind that I'm not aware of,
But that's not being approved, or that is what we're seeing? Is that what it's going to be?
Oh, colors as far as the homes?
Uh-huh.
No. That's just to designate the different, either being stone or stucco or no, we don't have colors of those orange and reds. This is the color scheme that we proposed, and nothing's changed on that. I apologize. I thought you were talking about the access plan. So,
Other questions for Carol or the developer?
Just FYI, that is the Washington Fields. I mean, I don't get that, but if you tell me Red Cliffs, I'm heading to the mall.
Well, the temple, I believe, is going to be called the
Yeah,
Red Cliffs
I get it.
Temple, so I think that was the.
They're okay. That's not that important.
You could go to the mall, though.
Yeah.
I would say just a comment on water, because I know there's a lot of worry, with new developments coming in, but it's actually my understanding that a development like this, where it is being flood irrigated right now, it's actually going to be using less water being developed. So just kind of an interesting comment.
It's two different water sources, though. Like the flood irrigation is canal water, not culinary. I'll make a motion.
Perfect.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance amending the park at Temple View Plan Development Residential PDR zone and change the zoning from Plan Development Residential to Plan Development Commercial on approximately 1 acre, to change the zone from Agriculture A1 to PDR on approximately 7.98 acres for the purpose of altering the boundaries, and approve the new design and layout of this residential plan development totaling approximately 46.79 acres to be known as Viovano at Washington Fields, which is going to change or stay the same or whatever they want.
Viviano at Red
And
Cliffs.
I would like to add the comments from Planning Commission to be added to that.
And then Natalie, I should have asked this before, but do we need to add the night sky lighting also?
The dark sky?
The dark sky, yeah, whatever it's called, to that motion?
You don't need to add it because it is in our regulations, and they'll have to
Okay.
conform. So, yeah.
If I could, we probably do need clarification on the name, because this thing goes on various legal documents. And so if it's Washington Fields or Red Cliffs, I guess maybe if the applicant wants to speak to that, want to.
David Hicks again. So it will be Viviano at Red Cliffs.
Viviano at Red Cliffs.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Thank you.
And then to include the water ordinance, I don't know, it wasn't on that slide, but it is in our packet.
I'll second.
Motion by Natalie, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, starting with Danielle.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Excuse me. Item number 7 is to consider approval of an ordinance amending the fields at Mall Drive, planned development commercial zone, to allow construction of a retail building to be known as H&H Washington LLC on approximately 0.96 acres located at approximately 2800 East Mall Drive. This is the property. So Lynn's is right here. Quick Quack is building right here on this corner. So it's right next to the Quick Quack that you've probably seen going up here recently. This is the this is the zoning. It's PDC, so it's part of this overall PD that Lynn's is a part of, and the general plan calls for commercial. So this is in line with what the vision was for this area. The one that you were just looking at, coincidentally, is just right over here, just off the map. So that's kind of the area we're looking at, 3000 East right here. This is the site plan that they're presenting. You can see it's a fairly small retail building. They've got one tenant lined up so far as Starbucks for this most westerly spot. And then they have a drive-through that'll service that, and then 2 other units for future tenants as well. They are parked so that if worst case scenario, these turned all into restaurants, and they had a kind of a 60-40 restaurant to kitchen ratio, they would need 42 stalls, and that's what they're proposing, and that's what they're presenting here. So they've got sufficient parking. The one thing I will point out, this is just a kind of a conceptual landscape plan. You've got all this landscaping, drainage, and then the path right here, and trail. The Planning Commission, when they looked at this, they were a little concerned with, I don't even know if concerned is the right word, but they would like to see some more of the awnings that are over these doors and kind of in these areas, kind of back in this area, and that they'd like to see a little bit more of this split face CMU kind of to break up this area. So this is all on that north side that faces Mall Drive. So there's a couple of conditions in the staff report that addresses that. So awnings, the applicant was a little concerned that if they do too much of the awnings, they're happy to do it, but they just don't want it to stick out too far into the drive-through. So we just need to be able to work with them on that so that doesn't create a conflict point. And they were willing to work with us on some of that banding, just to give it a little more visual interest on that north side. So those were the 2 things that the Planning Commission recommended on the architecture of the building. 23 feet high. That is a look at the colored renderings. That small. I could grab it if you want. It looks like this. These are the colors and the materials that they are proposing. Again, the Planning Commission held a public hearing, recommended approval. The applicant's here if you would like to hear from them. Otherwise, if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions for Dan? This looks pretty straightforward.
This is called H&H Washington. I'm confused. Is it in St. George?
Yeah.
I'm teasing.
No, funny thing, I actually had this conversation with them, asked them, hey, would you please consider changing the name? And there was some reason, that they couldn't. It had something to do with Washington Boulevard in Ogden, so I don't know what that's all about. But
Mr. Coates, you don't get a brownie point for that. I'm ready for motion.
On that awning, did we make them change the awning? Did we say we'd work with them on the awning? I feel like if they're doing a business and it's interfering with their business, is that fair?
That's completely up to you how you want to handle that. If you want us to work with them, we're happy to do that. If you're not concerned about it, you can take that requirement away. It was just a suggestion from planning.
I think leave it up to the client, to the person building the building.
Yeah, I don't think we wanted to interfere. I think what the planning commission's concerned with is the traffic there, and it's just aesthetics because it's the back of the building, so it keeps things looking good.
That's exactly right.
So I'd say we trust the city to work with them to knowing the concerns of the planning commission, and I would share those concerns of just making the aesthetics look great on the building.
We trust you. Now. I agree.
With that, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending the Fields at Mall Drive Planned Development Commercial Zone to allow the construction of a retail building to be known as the H&H Washington LLC on approximately 0.96 acres located at approximately 2800 East Mall Drive, with the adding the recommendations from the Planning Commission.
Motion by Greg, second by Natalie. All in favor, starting with Michelle.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Want a break? Boots here. Okay. We're going to do this one, and then we're going to take a break right after because we have food waiting for us, apparently.
Okay. All right, number 8 is to consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from Central Business District C4 to Planned Development Mixed Use on approximately 1.3 acres to allow for a new mixed-use building for a project to be known as 300 West Mixed Use. All right, I'll go over the staff report. So general location here, we're on St. George Boulevard and then the intersection of St. George Boulevard and 300 West. This C-shaped section here. The general plan land use map shows it as commercial potential, and the current zoning, as I mentioned, is C4, which is the central business district. Zooming in here, looking at the property, we are talking about removing all of these buildings that are along St. George Boulevard and putting in one building that will have mixed use, commercial on the main floor and residential up above, be about 8,000 square feet of commercial, and there will be 52 units up. As far as parking goes, they do have, well, let me talk about some of the requirements here first. They do have, they are meeting the landscape requirements. Actually, this project meets all of the requirements that we have in our zoning regulations for mixed use. So the parking will be underneath and on the surface as well. The applicant did provide this diagram to show the different types of parking. So here's the building here. The underground parking will be all for the residential units, the color pink, and then the blue will be for the guest parking, and then the green will be for the commercial parking of the building. Lighting, they did submit a preliminary lighting plan. Their lighting plan does seem to match and fit in with our code. One thing that's unique about this property, let me go back, is this says Sun Country, but it's really Sun City. Sun City glass, they're going to remain. So they will be right here, kind of right in the middle, but most of the development obviously will be in this area. The building will be here. It's just the parking that will wrap around, and they'll have entrances, 2 entrances off of 300 West, and then 1 entrance off of St. George Boulevard. Some elevations. This will be a 5-story building. As I said, 52 units. They'll have 1 and 2 bedrooms, and then I believe there might be a few 3 bedrooms. 69 feet is the height on this. And when this was presented to the Planning Commission, the applicant did explain that, they could, a lot of this height, there's about 10 feet of it is in this upper decorative architecture up here that could be reduced if needed or if wanted. So that last image was the skipped too fast. So these awnings, these red umbrellas, that's what it's going to look like on St. George Boulevard. This view right here is what you're going to see actually from the boulevard facing onto 300 West. And so they do have more outdoor eating areas for the commercial. This one is this is the Walgreens side here on the west elevation, and then this is the rear, which will look out the Sun City Glass area and further south. So here's some more perspectives. Everywhere you see the umbrellas, that's the front of the building on St. George Boulevard. I do have some perspectives with some landscaping put in. So this is you're on St. George Boulevard, just looking down this way towards the Main Street that way, that direction. And then this one is if you were on 300 West, this is looking at the side of the building and then the rear of the building. They are, as I mentioned, they are meeting all the requirements for the amount of glazing on the front for the commercial area. They are meeting those requirements. The only area that Planning Commission, when they saw this, they had concerns about the facade on the 300 West side. They felt it did need a little bit more details added so that it would match the front of the building. This is another perspective. This is looking at it from St. George Boulevard is right here, and we're looking down the boulevard, and the building would be right there. And then another perspective, this, of course, this is downtown area. St. George Boulevard, Main Street is off to the left. And as you look down the boulevard, it's this location right there. It's kind of hard to see with the trees in the way, but that's what it would look like from this perspective.
Carol, how high is that building?
Which one? The
Avenir?
Hold on. It is 62. Is what I have.
I noticed that Planning Commission's vote was 5-2. Can you give me the reasoning behind that? I didn't read the minute.
Okay, so there were two planning commissioners that voted against it. In their comments during the meeting, one of them had an issue with the height, and the other one had an issue more with parking, even though they are meeting their parking regulations, or they're meeting the parking. They just felt it for the commercial portion, there wasn't enough parking.
Elise was concerned about that commercial piece of that, wasn't she? That the commercial didn't have enough parking?
No, it was Lori, the one that voted nay on that. So right here is the recommendation from the Planning Commission. Once again, that was they wanted some more architectural detail, not only to the west face, but they also wanted some on the east face. And then there was a lot of discussion. There were a couple comments during the public hearing, and there was discussion about the Sun City Glass. Let me get back to the site plan. So Sun City, at this location, they do they have a lot of glass pieces that are large, and they have to break them down to get them in the dumpsters. So they do a lot of glass breaking right here. And so there was concern that, maybe if there were some kids over here, or the glass itself would kind of go across the property. So the Planning Commission did recommend that a block wall be put in along this property line so that to keep the glass on the Sun City side. But any questions for me? The applicant is here, representation is here. If you have any other questions for me.
Carol, or the applicant.
I'd love to hear from the applicant. Have you talked to
Wes Davis?
Have you talked to the glass company and you know, what's their
We
feeling
have.
about
We've
it?
talked to several of the neighbors there. Brandon, he was actually here at the meeting. He's not against the project. He wasn't in a position based off of a deal that he worked out with the sale of his business and his father to sell his parcel to include in it. But he's not opposed to it. I, in fact, met with him 3 times before we came to Planning Commission. Talked to Ron Metcalf across the way. He's also supportive of it, doesn't have any problems with it. We talked to the Keller Williams folks on the other side of the block as well, no issues with it. So.
Yeah.
What was
So
that?
who are you planning to put the wall up around?
It would
Sun
be us,
City?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you look, they don't have any windows that face out. I mean, their building was originally built on a 0 lot line. They have no windows on the exterior, so we wouldn't be obstructing them, obstructing any views. And there's also no residential anywhere on that block that would be impacted, so there aren't any residences that would be impacted either.
What about in the restaurant spaces? Are you going to outfit them with the grease interceptors?
We'll have to, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the space for the hoods? I can't remember what that's called.
Yeah, we'll work through all that. Same thing as we did as Jewel Plaza. We'll get it figured out and get it all put in place before they come in.
Okay.
But your most popular places at Jewel Plaza are your eating spaces, right?
Well, we may or may not have something in the works with our eating space there.
I guess that's my concern with the parking, and I know John and I frequently talk about reviewing that ordinance with multi-unit places that if you have 2 or 3 bedrooms that you probably need more parking, because if you go by that very busy spot, there's a lot of street parking down the street to get to that. So parking is a concern, and the height is a concern for me. I think if it was one, I like the architecture features. I'm going to say that would have to stay, but one less story, I would love to see that.
Sure. So to address the parking, Jewel Plaza, as we're referencing, they got a reduction in parking by no guest parking. I think the reduction was 25%. So we're not only meeting the code, we're not asking for any reductions, we're providing the guest parking, and we're overparked by a few stalls. And so we're exceeding the parking from previous projects that were done. We haven't had any complaints. In fact, if you go to Jewel Plaza, the whole back of that building has 100 and some odd stalls that 50-60% of the time are unused.
Yeah, and the street parking is actually, our streets are so wide that it's really not a problem. It's actually it works really well around Jewel. So I'm over there basically every day, and it's actually works really well, flows really well.
Yeah, we've had great feedback, great success. We've talked to some of the tenants over there in preparation of this, and we got positive feedback from them. And then in regards to the height, I mean, it's consistent with what's been approved downtown, right? If we look at City View, we look at Avenir, we look at Jewel Plaza, we look at the new county building, it's lower than all of those. And I mean, 4 stories Main Street, this is lower than. 4 stories county building, this is lower than. And so I think it's hard to say, hey, on a piece of paper, 60 feet feels high or 69 feet feels high, but it's consistent with what's been approved in the zone and in downtown, and it's actually lower. We did mention at Planning Commission that there's the possibility that we could reduce the height by about 10 feet and still keep the integrity and add some of the architectural features, and we'd be happy to work with staff on that.
Wes, what about the architectural detail that the Planning Commission suggested for the east and the west? What are you thinking on that? Have you had time to think about that?
We talked to Austin Anderson for a minute about it, and he had a couple of ideas, and we've met with our architect, and he's working on some revisions, and we'll work through with staff on doing something there to make it stand out a little bit.
I was thinking about, your farmstead seating. If there was more outside seating, it would be utilized or covered.
So we have both.
Yeah.
Am I able to scroll back on this?
You've got those little inset spaces.
Yeah, so
like
in
you do at
here, if you
Farmstead,
look where it says Manhattan, all
Is
of
it-
this is indoor, outdoor
Okay.
seating, indoor-outdoor seating, and then this back patio here is all outdoor seating.
Okay.
Yeah, and then along the boulevard, instead of pushing it to the back of the curb, we bought it back about 7 or 8 feet to allow for some seating along there as well.
Okay, yeah, that'll be really nice.
Any other questions?
Council,
I'd say
other
we've had pretty,
questions?
yeah, I'd say we've had pretty good feedback from the neighbors, from the public hearing. We really didn't have any negative comments from the public. It seems to be consistent with the C4 zone, with previous projects, both in the parking that we're exceeding in height. That seems to be consistent with the area. If we'd like to, we could certainly look at an adjustment on the height. But yeah.
I'm ready to make a motion, but do you guys want to talk more about the height? I'm okay with it, but if you want him to do architectural details just to bring it down, I mean, that would be okay too. I don't necessarily think those need to stand up so high if that's bothersome or you think that's problematic.
So part of our downtown plan, we've been talking about some of this, but I guess I just look at it, and we do get some negative feedback on some of these other buildings we've mentioned about height in downtown. So I guess it goes to what we're looking for. Do we imagine a corridor of 70-foot tall buildings down the boulevard, or what? I feel like we don't have a consistent idea of where and when and how high. I know we say 55 feet, but you know, everywhere else is going 70, so why not go 70? You know, where do we say no and where do we say yes?
Yeah, I think as far as this site goes, and you spoke about kind of the plan or the vision that's going on, I came to the meeting where the consultant was here, and one of the words that she used is for areas that support height and elevation or areas that were lively. I think if you look at this, there is not a spot on the boulevard that is a more lively location or on Tabernacle. You're 200 feet away from getting your prescription. You're 300 or 400 feet away from getting groceries. You're a block away from public transportation. You're a block and a half away from the city parks. So if there was a location to support the lively kind of connotation that she brought up, this, in my opinion, is one of the best, if not the best, applicants for that along Tabernacle or along St. George Boulevard. You are reducing traffic by being able to provide a walkable environment for people where you don't have to add additional cars on the streets.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I think this is a really great spot for this kind of density, and yeah, where it's not right up against any of the residential. You know, it's surrounded by commercial. I think it'll be really popular, and it's a nice design. I really like the product.
If you triangulate the three projects that have been approved that are mixed use and potentially the city's upcoming mixed use, this fits within the triangular area of all where the type of mixed use projects have been approved and may likely be brought to the city here in the future.
So that's my question, you know, if something like 70 feet comes in for across the street or either way, are we, you know, as we look into the future, are we okay with that, or are we just, do we have a consistent plan? I don't feel like we do, and maybe, you know, maybe I'm the only one that thinks that, you know, it's going to feel like a concrete jungle if we just do everything at 70 plus feet.
Sure.
I mean, I know we're trying to come up with a plan on that, and I would like to see us get there before we start saying, you know, once we say yes here and we've said yes other places, do we just have to say yes everywhere? That's
I think you got to take into consideration.
I don't think it's a bad product, and you make a great point that, you know, you're close to a lot of services, but, you know, we get some negative feedback on the height of the Avenir. I mean, because, you know, it's not St. George downtown because we can't see anything. You know, it's you know, you can disagree with that, but people give negative feedback. I mean, there's some concern there.
And I say this is likely going to be lower than both the Avenir and Main Street Plaza.
Yeah, because this here says the Avenir is like 80 feet.
Yeah, and we're at 69, and that's with the architectural elevations. The hard roof line's about 59 and a half, 59.11.
The thing that's so great about the Avenir and those additions downtown is it's added the density to support, you know, those businesses down there, and it really is becoming a very viable place to have great businesses. I mean, it's why Farmstead is so popular, and now Chris is doing another restaurant down where the One Hot Grill was that I'm sure will be equally as popular, but I feel like this type of density, and this project isn't even that dense, you know, in comparison. And I totally know what you're saying, Jimmy, and I think there is, you know, an argument to me. I don't think that we will end up with the boulevard being just a concrete jungle, because I think these will be interspersed with lower and higher, and that'll kind of be the beauty of downtown, is that it's a real interesting mix of products and types, and that's what I see us going towards, is a healthy mix of density. And to have that, we've got to have the people down there and the foot traffic to really make the businesses thrive. And I agree with Wes. I think, sorry, throw my glasses. I think that this is a great spot. If you wanted to be sans car, you could do that very easily in this spot. It'll actually be a great spot for somebody to live if they wanted to work up at Tech Ridge, because it's really close. So.
And to Jimmy's point, just to consider, the concrete corridor or whatever, you look at the buildings up along the boulevard, up and down, not all of them are going to be redeveloped, right? The Smiths is likely not going to be torn down and be a 70-foot building. Neither is the Walgreens, neither is the Swig. Or if you keep going down the street, you've got several others that won't. So I think it will be spotty, like where my office buildings are. Those will be 2- and 3-story buildings. So it won't be all the way up and down the boulevard, but selectively over time, it'll happen.
And that's the hope. But if I'm a Wes Davis, I've got my eye out for that piece of property.
Hey, if an opportunity comes, right?
And I don't knock that. I'm just saying it just feels like we could have a better. People expect us to plan ahead. Otherwise, we'll end up with what comes down the pipe and what is brought to us. And so, I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with the product, or it's a great looking building. I get the concept, but I don't think we've gotten our arms around what, are we looking for a downtown Salt Lake with, a bunch of high buildings?
I think it'll be hard to go downtown St. George 40 or 50 years ago. Dick's Cafe's not coming back in here.
Sure. No, I'm just.
And so over time, but Salt Lake is where it is over a great span of time that they got there. It wasn't overnight, which is going to be the same here in St. George.
Yeah, that's what
Well,
I see
think
us
this
as
building's a great upgrade from what's there. It's horrible. I'd rather see a little bit of higher density in occasional places than a trillion used car lots. But Brandt's Interiors across the street is a new building, and Metcalf isn't going anywhere. So you've got, like you said, nobody around there is going anywhere to, this would be.
It won't look
kind of
like a concrete
standalone.
jungle there. Yeah, I agree with you, Mayor.
I get it. I'm not, it would be nice. So then maybe we need to have a plan that says that it's interdispersed, that it can only be in these areas. That's what I'm saying. Otherwise, we are opening ourselves up to, hey, if I'm a developer, I'm saying I'll go 7 stories if I can get away with it. Let's be honest.
And I think that's why we're working on the downtown master plan that's coming in, so that Wes doesn't have to come in and stand before us.
Sure.
He knows what he can put, which I like that, to have that come in. Wes, I think we've talked. I think you've demonstrated this is a great spot for multifamily. So I like the project. I share the concerns with Jimmy as well. The height does worry me. It is outside of where our upcoming master plan is showing in this area.
By one building. And I think it might be a little
short-sighted
on
that. One building outside
that.
of where our master plan's going sets a precedent that, well, if we put one here, we'll throw one there, and these things. So that's what's hard. If there was a story off this, I'd be a lot more inclined to it, because that's what we've been saying in this area and others. You can go up to that 4. Well, we haven't even decided on that. It's either 3 or 4. And so when we go to 5, it goes outside of that plan. We'll have to extend those ranges.
But I think you should differentiate, right, between height and stories.
Well,
like I said, Main Street Plaza is 80-something feet, 4 stories.
The hotel's not 80 feet. The hotel is 62. I don't even know if it's 62, is it? I think that was inaccurate, because.
And that's a 3-story, right? The hotel is 3 with the
It's a 4,
yeah.
And they stylized their 4th story.
Like I said, we can get in that range. We can get into that 59, 60-foot range, which is below all of those. The new city county buildings, 4 stories, and obviously higher in that 80-foot range as well. But yeah, I think it fits in this location. I think it's a good, lively location. I think it fits into the current zoning, right? This is the zone. It meets all the criteria for the zone. I think it's a strong candidate to be considered for an approval.
Wes, so what if we made a motion and we brought it down to so you're at 69, we bring it down to the 59, which is what you're at without those high, architectural features, and you just work with staff to add architectural features around the edges, which I think could actually look really cool too. And then makes the council more comfortable with the height, and you get to keep the design that you have as far as like you've already got it laid out with the stories and you've made it pencil so you can do that underground parking, which I think is a huge benefit. So
I think it'd be open to that, yeah.
I think before,
Oh,
go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to say, where are we at with that downtown plan? I mean, are we pretty close to, no?
It's in process, still
Yeah.
requires a few more meetings.
Yeah, that's hard. I'm torn.
I'd like to see it. I don't want to just approve it because if you pull the architectural features off it, then what do we got? We got a big box, and I don't know if that's.
Well, I think she's saying to add architectural features, pull it off the top and put it within the existing lid, the hard line.
Right.
Right, is that what you meant?
yeah.
I'd like to see that come back and see what it exactly looks like before I approved it. But I appreciate your willingness to work with that. I'm just not comfortable with 5 stories right there or 69 feet at this point. For the very reasons, like we are working on the master plan, we are working through that. And so to approve this, then we've opened Pandora's box on what comes next.
Wes, do you want to table this and bring it back in 2 weeks with architectural design around the edges?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
Should we do that?
Make a motion.
Make a motion to table item, through my glasses and I can't see, are we on item 8? Item 8 to, would it be the date of August 4th? Could we put it to that one? Does that work? Table
Yeah.
it to August 4th?
How much advance notice on the drawings do you need? I just want to make sure I can get them in time.
Do you want us to kick it back?
No, sooner than later would be better, right? Because time's ticking away, and so it'd be nice to be able to know. But if it was a week in advance or 10 days in advance, that would be sufficient time to get it in for review.
I would think so. Oh, next Wednesday? Would it have to be that fast?
This coming Wednesday, I will do my best.
Okay.
If not, then I'll just ask for another couple weeks.
Thank you. Does anyone, I guess we have to vote on that?
You made that motion then?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Danielle, seconded by Natalie. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to take like a 10-minute break. Mr. MacArthur? Okay, Dan, we're ready.
Okay. Items number 9 and 10, if I think I'll run those together. One is a rezone, and the other one is a PD amendment associated, and they're both associated. So this is the area we're talking about for the PD, outlined in red. This is the lagoon right here. I think last week you saw that area phase 5 right here with the kind of those 3. They had like 3 in it, and then there's the curved building. That's right here. And so this is phases 4, B, 6, and 7. So the zoning is important on this one. This right here is commercial, and it's proposed to be residential. So they have to rezone that little corner. Looks unconsequential, but there are some lots that are planned right there. So in order for it to be consistent with the zoning, that needs to change to a PDR. In association with that, they are proposing to change this PDR, kind of wavy portion of PDR to PDC. So this equals about a half acre, a little over a half acre. This equals almost 3 acres that would go to PDC from PDR. So I hope that makes sense. That's what number 9 is all about. And you can see that a little better on this exhibit. This is the portion that intersects these lots, and it's, like I said, a little over half an acre. And then this, they know now that this will be a commercial user, so that we'll just follow that road straight up and clean that zoning all up. So again, this goes from PDR to PDC to PDR. This goes from PDR to PDC. So that's the first portion. That's number 9. Number 10 is the associated PD amendment for phases 4B, 6, and 7. It's about 25 acres, a little over 25 acres. And I was trying to get this. Okay, they are proposing these lots in blue. These are townhomes they're proposing scattered throughout. There's 34 of those, and the rest, there's 70 single-family lots. They're trying to scatter a little bit more, actually quite a bit more parking throughout. So you see there are parking stalls here, and some parking stalls up in here, and then down in here. But they've also provided some on-street parking just to make sure that there's plenty of parking throughout. The applicants noted that that's been a constant or a consistent concern that's been brought up. And so they're just trying to provide a little bit more parking, particularly up in this resort area, so that hopefully alleviates some of that concern and that problem. These are the elevations. Coal West will be building these. You've seen them elsewhere in the Desert Color Resort area. And they're just variations, different colors. Again, this just shows that parking, how they're allocating those parking stalls to which units. And then this is the landscape plan. Show you the amenity area. They're looking at a couple pools for this area, so they want to bring amenities closer to this particular these phases of the resort. Of course, the lagoon, the clubhouse, all that will be available as well. That's right. Where are you? There you are. Yep. Okay. I think it's just Regency that has their own. So yeah, these will all be available throughout the different developments. But that's a look at what they're doing with their amenities. So a small clubhouse, excuse me, a couple of pools. They have provided a tabulation of, there is a little bit of grassy area, but again, like we talked about, maybe it's about a month ago, they're not going to provide grass on individual lots throughout the subdivision. So this is really just kind of a little concentrated area of grass to make up for that. And I think it was, I forgot to write down the number. Do you remember the number, Craig? 0.7%. Okay. 0.7% of these phases would be in grass. So just trying to, again, centralize those usable grassy areas so that they are more usable and taking up less area throughout the development. And then this is the materials board again. That's right there. If you want to see it, I can pull it out, but that's what it looks like. With that, Planning Commission looked at this. They recommended approval on the zone change, on the PD amendment, and the amending of the booklet that would go along with that for the zoning. So if you have any other questions for me, I'm happy to answer those. Oh, unless you want to go over the preliminary plat that's associated with that, we can do that now as well, if that might save a little time, if you'd like to, Wes.
Except for yours, I hate to take yours off. Let me see.
Is this 11, Wes? Okay.
Okay, and this is the preliminary plat. It's just a request to approve a preliminary plat for 105 lot residential subdivision, like Dan said. And basically, that's just how they'll define it. Private roads. These would be public, privately owned facility or units here, again with private roads, and then open space and common area. That would be it. So that's just what the layout of the preliminary or the final plat will look like.
Thanks. Questions for Dan or Wes? And if you don't have any questions, then we need 2 separate motions on this.
Probably should have 3, one for the rezone,
Oh,
one for the
that's
PD,
right.
and then one for the plat.
Anyone want to take a stab?
So 9, 10, and 11, right?
Yep.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the ordinance, the plan development amendment to the Lagoon Parkway, the northwest of Desert Color Lagoon, and all of that other stuff it says in there. What conditions do we have? Any that need to be included?
Yeah, there was just a couple in here that.
To include any conditions.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. The proposed amendment meets the requirements of the Desert Color zoning plan, and there will be adequate parking to facilitate the development. Those 2.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, starting with Michelle.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Motion for number 10.
I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance for a planned development amendment located on Lagoon Parkway northwest of the Desert Color Lagoon and Phase 5 that would allow the applicant to construct 70 single-family homes and 34 residential townhomes units on the site and to amend of the Desert Color zone plan to reflect the zone changes in the overall Desert Color master plan.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Jimmy. All in favor, starting with Jimmy.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Sorry. Danielle Larkin, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
MacArthur, aye.
And number 11.
Motion to approve the preliminary plat for Desert Color Resort Phase 4B, 6, 7, and 105 lot residential subdivision.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Natalie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'll run items 13 and 17 together. One's the Hillside, the other's the preliminary plat. So this is a request for a hillside development permit for PA4 at DeVario. And basically, let me just go to it. Let me see if I can scroll down here. So originally, as you may recall, this went to Hillside years ago, like in 2004 or 5, and let me slide that up just a tad. And so they cleared certain areas, and other areas they said, okay, when you develop those areas, you need to come back, and if you're doing something within these areas, then you need to bring it to Hillside. So PA4 is right here, and basically they had outlined this wash right here and said, if you leave that alone, you don't, it's cleared for Hillside. If you want to disturb the wash, then you need to go back to Hillside. So they went back to Hillside. We met out there the first time, walked it with them. They and we looked at it. Hillside requested that they actually go in, because they'll have lots that back onto this wash. They felt like, no, we want you to stake the rear property lines and make sure we're comfortable with what you're disturbing here. Because they agreed there's a road that comes through here, and I'll show you on the preliminary plat. They felt like that easterly portion could be disturbed, as it didn't really have much aesthetic value, but they felt like the part to the west of the wash did have aesthetic value. So then they asked them to stake it. We went back out there after they staked it. We walked it, we adjusted some stakes, and then we had them survey it in. And so that was the request at Hillside. And I'll just show you the preliminary plat. Let me find it right here. So this is the preliminary plat right here. So basically the wash comes right through here. Their proposal is to eliminate the wash here and pipe it through this area here. This would be an entry road into their subdivision. And so that was their request. And then this they would leave open. And so let me just show you. So I took some photos of the wash just so you, in case you want to see it. Right here. So this is looking up the wash to the west, right through here. And again, and then this is looking down. And so right about in there-ish is where where the road crosses, and they felt like that portion could not be disturbed, but could be disturbed, but this portion to the west would not be allowed to be disturbed. And then this is kind of where the road goes through, and then that's looking up the wash where they'll leave that undisturbed. So again, they went and staked that, and then again, then we adjusted the lines to make sure we keep the wash open as much as possible based on that. And then the preliminary plat is just, let's see, is right here. And it's a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 124-lot residential subdivision called Lugano Landing, PA4. And the developer is requesting lot size averaging, as 14 of the 124 lots are less than the required 8,000 square feet. This is zoned R18, so they have 14 lots that are less than that. You can go up to 50%, are obviously well below that, but they do have some smaller lots right in this area here. Two of the issues that came up with PA4, as you can see right here, it's kind of the end of the subdivision, and there was a master plan road originally through here. However, with that zone 6 right there, it kind of eliminates that road, and so that's something that we're working through to try to see if we can get that road through here. Here's the Burgess property. It also allows the sewer to come down through here. So those were the concerns, that if that doesn't happen, that access road, do they have two accesses? So when this came in originally, and we looked at this, I met with Parks, and I met with Kevin Taylor of the fire department, and they agreed that this could be a second access through the park property. This is kind of a conceptual layout of that community park, and they felt like this could be a second access for PA4 for an emergencies or things like that they could get through there. And then Kevin and Mark felt like that would work. Again, this is just a conceptual site plan, but they felt like that would be an option for a second access. You know, the hope is to get the the road, let me go back here. The hope is to get that road down through there and into the Burgess property. Because the other concern is sewer. And so right now, the plan is to, where am I right here? Right now, the plan is they'll bring their sewer down that road here, and then this is a fairly large hill here, and they'll bore through that hillside right there, and then they could catch grade here and then go out to Gap Canyon Drive. But they would have to bore through that hillside. I'll just show you really quickly right here. Come on, right there. You can see the hill that they would have to bore through, and then they could go back to open cutting right through here. So I talked to the sewer department. They were comfortable with the boring, felt like that would work. And so that's where we leave it right now, is that would be their sewer, and then their second access would be through that park.
Wes, is that something we've done in the past, boring sewer lines like that?
We have in a few locations. It's like when I first started down here with, I think it was the city. Yeah. Yeah. They bored actually 3 utility lines, you know, where, I can't remember, it's called the Cliffs at Snow Canyon. They bored actually 3 borings up through that to get up to service the ledges and so forth. And so they bored both a sewer, a water, or 3, and an irrigation boring. And that's how they get their sewer services down through those borings. And then eventually once irrigation is pumped up there, that's how they'll get irrigation, and then you have water. So it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen on certain occasions based on the topography.
And then how do they repair those?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't actually know how you'd have to clean it out, and hopefully, you could put a jet rod down there and clean those out. Yeah, because the one up at the ledges, it's fairly deep into that rock, obviously, as it goes up there. You can open cut it. And this would be the same thing. They have talked about trying to come through here and possibly open cut that, but that would take them into the Hillside process, as this sits within the Hillside overlay zone. And that would trigger the Hillside review committee and so forth. But for now, they would just bore through it right there.
So I guess my other question is there a possibility that this Burgess Road won't be negotiated? And if so, is that a problem for this development, for this subdivision?
So that's what I'm saying is right now they would be able to develop based on the second access through the park and the boring through the sewers, with the boring the sewer through the hill. The hope is to get that, and so that road can get down through there, and then they put sewer down through the Burgess property, as well as it provides another access for the city down to Gap Canyon. So DeVario would be able to have another access that brings DeVario Canyon Drive down and through and over to Gap Canyon.
Have the Burgesses still own the Burgess property, or is it the name of it just
no,
because they previously
yeah,
owned
I
it?
just call it the Burgess property. The north portion's owned by a group, one group, and then the south portion is owned by Wasatch Development.
And you'd have to have agreement by both those to get these utilities through that. So.
Yeah, and they've been working with both parties, and they've kind of got a rough sewer alignment down through there, and so I think they may not even have to go through the boring. It's that whole Zone 6 thing is trying to get the sewer down through, but they have worked out an alignment and also possibly a road alignment through the Burgess property. It's just getting it through that Zone 6. Yeah. Because the road benefits not only DeVario, but it'll benefit the Burgess property, brings the utilities down through there and so forth.
And I've been in those Habitat Conservation Committee meetings, and I think that group is open to working with doing something there.
Yeah.
Because you can cut, goes right along the side of it, just cuts a little piece. So I think
Right.
they'd be open to doing that. Well, it sounds like a complex piece that you've done a lot of work on and got to the point where it works.
Yeah, I think so. So 17 was a preliminary plat, so you'll just have to do 2 motions on this for the Hillside permit and the preliminary plat.
I'm ready to make a motion unless anybody else has any comments. I'll make a motion, Mayor, that we consider, we approve Hillside development permit to allow disturbance of areas in the 20, 30%, 30, 40%, 40% above slope on areas on approximately 33.52 acres known as DeVario PA4. Lumina Landing, generally located along the future extension of DeVario Canyon Drive at the boundary line between St. George City and Washington City?
Washington
Washington
County.
County.
Washington County. There we go. Sorry. Washington County.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Michelle. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So number 17, Wes?
Yeah, the preliminary plat
Okay.
for PA4 Lugano.
Motion to approve the preliminary plat for Lugano Landing at DeVario. 124 unit or residential subdivision located within DeVario development along the future extension of DeVario Canyon Parkway, including the conditions that are boring.
Just made your life easy, Wes.
Yeah.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now we're skipping 12 because the developer pulled that.
Yeah.
And we are to 14.
Yeah, and if you're okay, I'll do 14 and 15 too, because one's the Hillside, one's the preliminary plat. So this is a request for a Hillside development permit to allow the applicant to develop a proposed single-family development within the Hillside area. It's called the Indian Hills Temple Trail. So let me scroll down there really fast. So this project's located along Indian Hills Drive. So right here, there's Gary Carter's house. There's Tech Ridge, and it's right here is the proposed development. So this is the slope analysis. Oh, geez. This is the slope analysis map for this area. And you can see, so the project actually had 3 reasons it went to Hillside. It went to Hillside because it does lie within the high hazard area for landslide. It does lie within the high hazard area. Some of it does for rockfall and then for the slope analysis. The geotechnical engineer did a study both on the rockfall and the landslide and said the property was not impacted by either. The landslide was more up the hill and to the east and to the south, and the rockfall was a substantial distance away, and the rockfall source wasn't very great, that it would not impact that. So that was in the study. Then it came down to the 20 to 30 and 40% slope categories. So when we met on site, the Hillside committee felt like this area and this area here were not consistent with the surrounding topography, just felt like they were man-made, and this area here and felt like they could be disturbed as it's not the natural topography. They did, we walked around here and looked at this along Indian Hills. We didn't actually walk back here, but as we stood up here, the discussion was, and I don't know this for sure, but that was the discussion, is that this is an old fill site that's on Gary Carter's property, and it's kind of been filled over time. And so they felt like this area here could be disturbed. They really wanted this area here cleaned up along Indian Hills Drive, as it's just kind of a scar, and they felt like if you're going to develop it, we'd like that cleaned up. They'd like that cleaned up. And then they felt like this area here again was not the natural topography. It was a fill site and could also be disturbed because it was man-made. And so that was their recommendation, that they could be disturbed. Now let me go to the preliminary plat. I can't remember which one this one is. Maybe I didn't put it on. It's got it right there. Okay, so here's the preliminary plat. So the preliminary plat is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 19-lot residential subdivision called Temple Trail Canyon Phase 1. So in your packet, they made a change. So basically when they went to Hillside, they assumed that they showed this as all being undisturbed here, but after going through Hillside and having that discussion, the Hillside committee said, no, it can be disturbed. It's already man-made, and it's already disturbed. We would prefer you to do rock walls and so forth and clean up those slopes. And so that was their recommendation. So this is an updated one that they just sent me today because I realized that they hadn't pulled that hatching area off. And so they pulled that off to allow them to disturb it based on the Hillside recommendation, and if council approves that. And so that's their request, is just allow that. And it would be in each lot. but it would be allowed to be disturbed. They do have walkout basements here that they're proposing, and they would be required to provide a 10-foot landscape strip and a privacy wall along Indian Hills Drive, as the lots there that front that are double-fronted lots. So they have showed a landscape strip. They are requesting that possibly instead of putting the 6-foot privacy wall down here along Indian Hills Drive, that it be allowed up here or possibly eliminated. The reason they're making that request, even though it's by ordinance, is these lots right here probably sit 15 to 20 feet above the road. And so they felt like if you put the privacy wall down at the bottom, it really does no good for anybody. It's just a waste. And so I said, well, let's put it up here along the top. And he said, well, okay, but what if they want a view lot and they're okay? So we talked that through, and so, yeah, I don't know. So right now, I think you'd have to put that wall up there because that's what the ordinance says, unless there's some way, we feel like, no, those are view lots, and we'd have to do some way to do an agreement.
What does Black Ridge Cove have right next door? Do they have privacy walls? Can't remember.
No, because they don't front Indian Hills Drive. They're all interior, and they have no double-fronted lots. This is the only one. In fact, I kind of did a street view and went up Indian Hills Drive, and there are a number of subdivisions that have double-fronted lots, but they didn't do a landscape strip. And that's probably the difference in the ordinance, because that's been a while since anything's really developed along Indian Hills Drive, and so they're kind of unique. But
I think a wall of some sort is necessary right there, just so we don't have people backfilling to something, then we end up with that issue again. Like, we can put a retaining wall down there on the street and backfill and extend our lot.
so that's what their request is. So when the Hillside met, they said, we actually want you to put rock walls in here and dress the slope up and make it look nice. They felt like it does not look very good right now in its situation. And I took a picture. So this is looking at the south or at the north side on the back side of those lots. And then this picture is looking to the east against the rear of those lots. And then this picture is looking along Indian Hills Drive. And this is where they were really concerned about dressing that slope up and making it look presentable. They felt like it shouldn't stay in that condition. So part of their motion was to for sure put rock walls along there, but they had suggested putting rock walls along the whole entire perimeter to kind of dress up the slope all the way around.
I know in other areas where we have the black rock, and I know Tech Ridge has done an exceptional job, but I'm not asking for that, but is there something with the rock wall that they've addressed on what kind of rock they're going to put in that rock wall?
Yeah, so they wanted it all to be the same color, and I can't remember if they suggested it to be a basalt to kind of match the hillside there, a black rock, kind of like what Black Ridge Cove did. I can't remember if they said that, but they did say they wanted it to all match the same color for whatever wall they put in there.
So you're saying they want to put the rock wall in and dress it up. They're just saying the privacy wall.
Yeah, so the Hillside recommended that, the rock walls, and it dress it up. The privacy wall just comes in, it's a requirement of the ordinance, and so they're requesting that at least, at the minimum, let them put it up on the top where it would provide some value to the lots.
What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I think it makes no sense to put it down below. It's better to put it up there. There have been places I've seen in the city where when the elevation change was such that they've only required them to do a 3-foot, 4-foot privacy wall and then allow wrought iron on top to provide a view shed for the lots if they sit that much higher than the road. They are quite a bit higher. They're 15 to 20 feet higher than that road.
So they can have that view. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's my thought.
Ready for a motion on number 14 if there's no more questions. And
Mayor,
then 15.
I'll make a motion. Are we on 14? Yeah, you want to do 14?
14.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Hillside Development permit to develop single-family housing to be known as Temple Trail on approximately 50 acres located at 720 West Indian Hills Drive, allowing the privacy wall to be at the top. How would I describe that, Wes? At the top of the hill. On the hill
I mean,
edge.
at the pad elevation is where I
Yeah.
would say.
And that we would allow the privacy wall to be shorter with wrought iron on top, if that's what they wish for. And then do I need to add in that they're going to do the rock?
Yeah, the rock needs to be a consistent color all the way through so
Okay.
it matches. Now, if you want it basalt or you don't
Don't
really.
you guys think consistent basalt around the entire?
You
So
want
like the
something
dark
gray,
basalt
white,
to
black?
match the hillside behind it.
Okay, we'll do that.
Second.
Go ahead.
Can I have a comment on that? The 50 acres, that's not 50 acres right there. Are we proving like?
No,
is
you're only,
because
did it say 50
It
acres?
says plus or minus 50 acres.
Oh, I don't know why it says that. No, it's just this right here.
So I
we'll
assume
remove that
five,
from
I
the
assume it's
motion.
5
Yes.
acres or.
So I can tell you right here. I don't know why that was put in there.
The whole hill.
Yeah.
So
Gotta be
it
careful about
is
proving the whole hillside.
10.04 acres. No, 10.64 acres.
Oh, that's weird. Well, so we'll change the motion to be 10.64 acres.
Yep.
Motion by Danielle, seconded by Michelle. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the last item is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 16-lot commercial subdivision called Shakespeare Airport
Do
Subdivision.
you want us to do 15 first?
Oh, sorry. My bad.
I know, you want to get out of here, so do we.
I was super excited. I'm
Motion
sorry.
for 15, I'm ready.
I'll make another motion that we approve the preliminary plat for Temple Trail Canyon Phase 1, a 19-lot residential subdivision located at approximately 720 West Indian Hills Drive.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, second by Jimmy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now 16.
Thank you, Mayor. So the next item is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 16-lot commercial subdivision called Shakespeare Airport Subdivision. The site is located along Airport Parkway, the entrance to the St. George Regional Airport. Property is 40 acres, number of lots is 16. So we've met with Washington City a couple of times on this one. So here's the location of the development. You may have seen this right here. There is a proposal out there to extend the airport parkway in a kind of a circular shape like that, right there, just kind of, and then a roundabout right there. But this is where their subdivision is. It's right on the border of Washington and St. George. So we met with them because this is kind of the first one out there, and we kind of wanted to make sure we're coordinating with them as far as roadway infrastructure and utility infrastructure. So one of the roads, so Washington has the airport parkway right here. Obviously, they'll tie to the north. Then the next fairly good-sized road would run right here to the east of the airport along the border between Washington and St. George. And then they have another fairly large road right here. So we met with Washington because we were not sure. This is not shown as a master plan road, and we were not sure what their plan is here. So what we've come to the conclusion, or what we're proposing to do is, so Washington would like that road there, but they would also like the flexibility of eliminating the road. This is a fairly large one-owner parcel there, right there in the Washington city that abuts the boundary line. They've had some interest in it, and they know that it may develop as one large lot, which would nullify the need for the road. But it may not, and they're so we talked through with them a couple times, and we've worked out what we're proposing to do is this would be the road that would service the subdivision. These lots would get access from Airport Parkway. They've agreed to dedicate both the cul-de-sac and 30 feet of a 60-foot future road. And we're hoping within the next few months to know how this lot will develop. So therefore, if this plat records prior to this, they would dedicate both the cul-de-sac and the half the road. As that develops, if it develops into one big parcel, then we've agreed that the city would then vacate that public road there and just use the cul-de-sac. If it extends through, then this cul-de-sac will go away and we'll have a road that extends through with two roads there. So we're trying to hedge our bets it's the best we can do, and we're trying to be as flexible as possible. And they've been gracious enough to allow us to dedicate both scenarios, and then we'll see how the property to the east in Washington develops.
Wes, I was looking at this. I'm wondering about those 6 lots that are, going to be entering and exiting off of Airport Parkway. Does there need to be a decel lane there? That's a pretty narrow road at this point, right?
Yeah, and they'll have to actually widen that road.
Okay.
It's on our master plan, it's shown as a 90-foot arterial. Washington shows it as a 90-foot arterial. We're still debating on whether that should be a 90 or a 66, but we'll have a decel lane put in there. It's just, we're still deciding whether it needs to be a 90 or 66.
Okay.
And we've talked about having them just dedicate the full 90, and then we'll kind of see how the airport develops out. We'll build it maybe as a 66, and then if it really becomes necessary to widen it, the right-of-way's there, but in the meantime, they could utilize it. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is kind of like throwing the dart and hoping it lands. And so we're trying to be as flexible as possible without over designing the whole thing and building a road maybe that's not necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking about it the way it is right now, and that would be tight.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Wes, so if you do have to go 90, are you taking it out of the land?
So yes, they would be required to I think they dedicate, I think this is shown as a 90 right now, and they would be required to dedicate that. That's the request. But we may just have them finish the road on that easterly side just to a 66 and leave the right-of-way open in case the city feels like they need to dedicate it or need to improve it in the future. Yeah. Yeah, it's not very clean. Go ahead.
This is a related comment, slightly out of scope, so I'm just going to tee that up. On Tuesday of next week, I'll be getting final funding approvals through my day job to do a master plan of this whole entire area because of the Sitla lands associated. I hope that, just know that it's available. Sitla will pay for the full thing, and it's a large amount of funding to have a national level engineering/planning firm come in and help us.
Oh, that'd
and
be great.
we'd love to offer those services to City of St. George and Washington City and help plan this whole thing out.
No, that'd be great. That
So
really
that-
would.
that's
Because,
gonna-
we're just kind of throwing the dart and hoping, but trying to leave it as flexible as possible.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So that's available. It's coming very shortly.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Questions for Wes or Bob?
Tawny, are you comfortable with that, with the decel lane, like tentative decel lane when we make the motion?
Yeah, I just had the same question that Danielle did about them coming out onto that road and whether the road was going to impact those lots.
So the motion would just have to include those comments, that they continue working with staff on that decel lane.
Yeah. And I think you need to make the motion that, so in the future, future councils are here, we may vacate that right-of-way being dedicated now if it's not necessary and the road's not going to extend through. Just so everybody's aware that that was the intent. If the road comes through, it's already dedicated. If it doesn't, it vacates, or the cul-de-sac will vacate as far as the right-of-way goes. And Bob reminded me, this is called Aviation Business Park, not Shakespeare. They changed the name and upgraded from Shakespeare.
This is right into the entryway of our airport, the main entryway right there.
And so that roundabout will actually sit about right there that they're looking at. And this would be where, that's just that plan that they sent me, the airport, Rich Damar sent, just showing that this would be future parking with a roundabout right there.
I hope we, we have our zoning and everything, and this is complying. I hope that we get some things that show off St. George well in those parcels.
Who'd like to take a stab at the motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for Aviation Business Park, a 16-lot commercial subdivision located along Airport Parkway at the entrance to the St. George Regional Airport, including remarks from Wes regarding the the roundabout? No, it's
The
not the roundabout.
cul-de-sac.
The cul-de-sac
And
and
the-
potential roadway that may at a later time, depending on development,
Be vacated
be
if not
vacated.
needed.
And
Yeah.
continue to work with staff regarding the roadway, whether it be 66 or 90 feet, and allowing for a decel lane.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Natalie, seconded by Michelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I don't have any appointments. And just a reminder, tomorrow is the open house for Station 9 at 11:30 in the morning. And then Saturday night, we're having flag football game with Washington City. So come and support. A bunch of our PD players will be on there, community players, and some players from the university. So it should be fun. It's all...
I heard Washington's going to do fireworks for St. George after
They
we
are,
win.
as soon as we win. Yep, at 10, they'll have a big fireworks celebration, so. Michelle, any reports?
No.
Natalie?
No.
Greg?
Yeah, I got one.
Okay.
So this weekend we have the 24th of July coming up. I think there'll be a ton of people shooting off fireworks, maybe some of them illegal. That
Hopefully it
happens.
wasn't a night,
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
The reason I bring this up is just I thought it might be good as a city if we do one more push just of firework safety before that. If maybe we can make David aware of that.
Yeah.
I think that'd be good.
Jimmy?
None.
Danielle?
We did dedicate the Ledges Park this week. That was a nice, beautiful
Fish Rock?
park.
Fish Rock.
Oh, sorry.
And we have the fire station
Yeah. I
tomorrow.
mentioned that.
And if you go up there, we learned that, you guys probably already knew this, but I was not aware that there's a rock that looks like it has a fish in it. That's where the name came from. And it's really cute, yeah. So the white rock, and then it's got this red sandstone fish through the middle. That's where the name came from.
So when I was a kid, just to add to this, my best friend lived up there, and it looks kind of like a snake too. It can be a snake as well. And my friend, and I believe this all the way to high school, he said that Montezuma's treasure was hidden in the mouth of that snake. There was a cave there, and him and his brother went up and found it. And it wasn't true, but I believed it for a long time. I never checked for myself.
Might still be there.
I still haven't checked. That's true.
Adam, did you have something?
Yeah, two things. A quick update. So we've been working with Marcus Faust's office on a number of projects that we're trying to get funding for. And so yesterday, the House of Representatives passed a number of funding bills. We do have two projects included in that, some money for 1450 South, so from River Road out to the Dixie Center. And then we also have $3.5 million in there for SR7, the Southern Parkway Exit 5, so the new interchange. So that's great. This fall is when the Senate would take those bills up. And, you know, we all pay taxes, and it's nice to have some of that come back to St. George. That's a big help to us. And then secondly, I just wanted to share with the council, you know, there was a request and some additional comments on packets and the timing of those packets. And so we discussed that in our staff meeting today, and actually I think our staff were ecstatic to say, yes, a little bit more time. One thing that we'll need to do, oh shoot, I was hoping Bob was still here. We're gonna have to make sure the development community understands the timelines. That's really the one thing we bump into. You know, Wes was saying it earlier with his project, like, well, when do you need it? Because, you know, the turnaround. So we typically what we're trying to do is we'll have a planning commission meeting, and then we try to move them along as quickly as we can, because our staff downstairs, they get a lot of pressure to move things along. So we try to go planning commission and city council, and if we need any additional time, then there could possibly be up to 2.5 weeks. And again, staff would love the extra time. I mean, it really would be a relief, but we'll have to get ahead of that and help the development community know, and we'll get the word out with the developers and say, look, we got to hold the line on these so that you can have enough time to review the packets. I mean, what was it, like 700 pages this week? We know it's a lot. And especially for the new council members, it's like drinking from a fire hose. It's a lot. We know it is. I mean, the pace of information that's coming through, the number of items, it is a lot. And so I think we'd appreciate the extra time. And so we've talked with staff about that. Christina's really got a good process We do make a lot of exceptions. We try to have deadlines, and then something comes in and they say, this is really important. But I think we're just going to need to take the position that we just have to have the information in. And I think you would appreciate that, and it probably benefits us long term. So there's the follow-up on that.
Awesome.
And we already had a closed session in
There
between
may
our work
be a
meeting
need
and
for
here.
another.
Do we need another one?
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion for a quick closed session to discuss litigation, property acquisition or sale, or character and professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, seconded by Jimmy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned from City Council and go into closed session.